talk about hammers.
Okay, that time I did hit start recording. Welcome, everybody. How
Oh,
are
are
you
we
doing?
doing
We're
good?
doing perfectly fine, my man. How are you?
I'm
I
good.
feel like you're compensating with them.
No.
No!
Come on, Mario. We're all feeling good. We just saw each other at Gen Con. I got a hug from Jacob Crow. It was a nice feeling. Everything's good in the
You
world.
got a hug from me too, but you didn't
I
say
got a
anything.
lecture from
What do you got to do to get lectured by Crow? He's such a sweet dude.
Oh no, I just heard a lecture. He had like a TED Talk at our Airbnb.
Oh, yes,
I don't
we're
remember what it
talking
was
about
about.
gooning, if you would.
Oh, okay. There
Let's
you
not
go. There
ruin
you go.
Jacob's reputation. We're talking about minotaurs in their goon labyrinths. Maybe they do that there. I don't know. Greek mythos creatures. There's got to be something weird to them.
Ah, fuck.
Oh yeah, anything Greco-Roman is just
Greco, more like
Yeah.
more like stinko.
Okay.
Like
So I mean, that's going to be the angle I got to go for it because me being the Greek mythology dude I mainly know of that they were born out of a little something getting silly with an animal in Greek mythology, if you could believe that.
I remember explaining it to somebody where I was like, okay, so the story is King Minos didn't want to kill the sacrificial bull that was given to him by Poseidon, I believe. And basically Poseidon was mad, so he's like, fuck you, Minos. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make your wife fuck that bull. So basically,
right.
she went to like the guy that fucking like their little inventor, and she's like, hey,
Yeah, Daedalus.
I need you to make me a fursuit so I can go out there and I can fuck that bull. And he's just like, fuck. I mean, I guess. So he does it, and then she does, and then she gives birth to what's his name? Fucking not Astarion.
Asterion. Not
Astarion. Yeah.
Astarion. Yeah. So it is a Snow White bull that was sent by Poseidon, who at the time was not the god of the sea, but the god of livestock and like farming practices.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Look, dude, I need Minos. I need you to kill this bull." And he's like, "Nah, it's too pretty. It's a pretty bull." So he puts it in his little pen, and then his wife is like, "Put that in my pen." You know what I'm fucking saying? And then, yeah.
Okay, to
So
make it even
that's-
more painful, if fursuit would have been a little more reasonable, it was a hollow wooden cow.
Yeah.
She got
It was a
Ace
big-
Ventura in there, man.
Yeah. She was like Ace Ventura in there, and like.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, no, she.
Yeah.
That's right. She had fucking Daedalus make her a little like brazen bowl. She's like, I need this brazen bowl for that bowl to blaze my hole. And then she gave birth to the fucking Minotaur.
She told Daedalus, "Listen, I'm a bit of a size queen, and I really
I
want to know what this thing's packing."
Yeah, and then
Daedalus is just the Dr. Vegapunk of Greece. Like he could make anything that anyone wanted.
did. Like, and then he's like, Daedalus, come on, man. You gotta deal with this. And he's like, I was older too, my king, and I don't like you. So he then made him have the labyrinth. The labyrinth came before 1 and 2, but trapped
The
his-
labyrinth came after the boy was born,
Yeah.
and he was like half bull. So
Yeah,
I think
big
Minos was just like, "Hey, yo, Daedalus, I don't care what you've done before. I don't know anything about my wife. I don't even know who she is. Make me a labyrinth. Put my boy in there."
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, so they go in there, and that was also a big insult to Minos in general because the bull was like the symbol of their country. So
Yeah,
it became
that was like the American
sac-
lion or the eagle or something.
Yeah, it became
Well,
like
that's,
this nearly sacrilegious symbol, like this bastardization of like what's supposed to be holy for them to make it even more insulting for Minos.
That's kind of sick because that's like if there were any sort of New Age mythology to just have like this mutant eagle that like scientists made, where it's like this huge eagle creature from America that like swoops down and takes children, and you're like, well, we can't have that as our symbol now. It's like that's a real problem. That's such a cool like.
I don't know.
Twist of
Part
their
of
own
that,
virtue.
like, that's fucked up, but at the same time, it's like that's kind of sick.
Yeah, like
because I was before we started on this, I was looking back on. I did research, and by research, I mean I watched a single video, and I didn't look anything up, and I was like,
job.
And,
I watched
But,
it on
uh,
double
modern
speed.
man.
shout out to Box Gem in the audience who showed me this video. But
We
fucking
love Box Gym.
basic, yeah. And basically, it was a big explanation of just like, oh, fucking, here's how the Minotaur was technically real, in the sense of like what it represented and everything. And it's just like the whole idea of like, oh yeah, they had to like feed the Minotaur Athens, and like the idea was just like, oh, it's because fucking the Minoans and like the people from fucking Athens, they fought, and the whole idea of like the maze itself, the labyrinth, is just basically like the city where they attacked was just like this whole thing of like, I don't know how the fuck these city streaks work. It's a labyrinth of sorts. And and which also, even further on that, I had found out today what the origin of the word labyrinth means, which is basically just like double-sided axe. And the main reason why it's the home of the double-sided axe, which is also why the Minotaur is associated with the double-sided axe. But it's also like the whole thing of just like, oh, that's like a big religious ceremonial thing with the Minoans.
So looking here, it's a pre-Greek word coming from as early as 1892. So it might be derived from labrys, which is a Lydian word. I'm not entirely familiar with the etymology of Lydia. Yeah, just meaning double-sided axe. And the idea is because the labyrinth itself was, a single path. Like the difference between a labyrinth and a maze is that a labyrinth is one single long straight path. There's nothing maze-like about an actual labyrinth, which in the film, The Labyrinth, that it followed that theme. But the labyrinth itself is designed kind of like the Legend of Zelda one, where it's just these two halves that you keep looping around to come back in, sort of like a swinging axe, but when you look at it top down, it is this two-sided thing.
Interesting.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Which I know it had a little, in a sense, like, I think there were some magical properties as well, at least, like, or he scienced it so well people couldn't figure it out. Because I know Theseus even had to have, like, the magical cord.
Yeah, he had to have the yarn to find his way back.
Yeah, because it was pretty much meant to be, once you're in there, you cannot get out. So, like, it really was, like, a death sentence for any Athenian that was put in there.
Because it's meant to be, like, the Minotaur's not supposed to be able to find its way out either, which is also funny, because, like, the Minotaur's really good at mazes.
Yeah, it can figure out anywhere it needs to be in the maze. It can find you in the maze, but the fact that it can't find its own way out, I don't know.
Like,
Yeah, the little psychologist in me is like, maybe it can't mentally find its way out. It's stuck in this labyrinth.
I think there's something kind of looking at the Greek mythos. It's very funny because as a little boy,
As a little boy.
I always really liked Minotaur. I thought Minotaur were very cool. I don't know where I first found out about Minotaur, because I remember later on in life checking out a book on Greek mythos, because I didn't actually know the Greek myth to the Minotaur. I just knew that it was from Greek myth. So I looked into it. It was from Tobuscus. You're right. it was the mini tartar. But it was a thing where I had looked into it, and I looked at it and I was like, oh, that kind of sucks that the Minotaur dies. But it was like a thing where I was just like, I remember looking at it and like thinking, there's something kind of sad about the idea of the Minotaur. There is a sad kind of thing of just like unwanted creature that is just thrown into the maze. And there's even it makes me think of like the Hades version of Asteria.
I really like their depiction.
So I didn't realize the name Minotaur just means, because it's sort of reverse in English now, the bull of Minos. That's all it is.
Basically.
The unwanted aspect makes me think of changelings from, I want to say, Scandinavian mythology, where if you, say, had drank a lot during your pregnancy and you didn't know what that meant, and you had a baby who was heavily deformed, or there were any sort of genetic abnormalities where they came out like, what are the babies with inverted skin and red eyes called?
Harlequin babies.
Oh, like the Harlequin baby? Yeah.
If you had a Harlequin baby, you would just proclaim, oh, fairies took my baby and replaced it with this Harlequin baby. And that's what a changeling was. Is just any deformed baby they didn't want, but it was noticeably deformed, where you could say, oh, it was fairies. Like, my body would never create something like that.
Why would that happen?
Yeah,
It was fairies.
Yeah.
like babies with stone skin. That's why they were attributed to being trolls, because trolls had stony skin. So if they had like a carapace, like a Harlequin baby, they'd be like, "Oh, troll baby, not mine. Dump it."
But no,
And
like,
Minos is kind of in that same vein.
yeah. Honestly, to me, like, the entire story involving Minos is like one of the perfect Greek tragedies to me, because no one that was in this story got out unscathed. And it
Yeah.
all was from Minos' pride originally, because it eventually led to Daedalus and Icarus's fall. It led to
Yeah.
this was
Yeah,
the
Didn't
yeah.
they like need to escape the land, and that's why they built the wings?
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure it
went
was Minos where they were imprisoned at. I know it was a king that he made mad, so he's like, "You're going to stay here," and Daedalus is like, "Nah."
And
Na, na, na,
the
na,
kid
na,
that flew into the sun, that was Daedalus's child. What's his fucking name?
Icarus, yeah, he
Icarus,
flew
wow.
too high,
Just
and
like the kid.
the sun melted his wings
Oh yeah, Kid
because
Icarus.
they made him out of feathers and wax from candles.
Mhm.
So, but yeah, there's that. There's also King Minos' son being born. And and he doesn't want to kill his son, but he also doesn't want
Which
to
is
see it, so he
interesting.
locks it in the labyrinth.
You could misconstrue that to be kind of poetically beautiful, where Minos refused to kill that bull, and then his wife fucked the bull, and now there's a baby that is that bull, and he's like, I will continue almost honorably my refusal to kill what I am supposed to kill.
Yeah.
He continues to.
Kind
Yeah,
of.
well, that's.
Yeah, that could
Yeah.
be interesting. I want to paint him as a weird piece of shit because his wife
Yeah,
is
yeah.
like they're both crazy for sure.
Yeah.
Which
But
also.
Minos
Yeah.
definitely wasn't a good person, because
Uh-huh.
eventually,
no.
I'm pretty sure, because I know Daedalus like was the one who did him in as well. Because if it's the king I'm thinking of, Daedalus, he was locked in a room, but he started taking apart the walls of the castle, and found the pipes that led to Minos' bath, and he boiled a
What
lot
the
of water in his room and poured it all in the pipes at once, so Minos straight up got boiled to death.
Oh my god.
Boiled to death?
Yeah. Apparently he had like the hottest water imaginable, and Minos was just too comfy in the bath, and he's
What
like,
a
"Oh,
fucking-
I can't
He's like a
no more."
frog. What an Inspector Gadget motherfucker, just doing shit like that. That
He just,
reminds me of the.
I just imagine him go full
I think
Mario, just like bouncing out, like, "Ah!" just falls back in and keeps
there's
bouncing.
there's that
just a
Asian guy
fucking-
who escaped his cell because he kept throwing his salty miso soup to rust the locks over time, and it's like, what
Oh my
the fuck
God.
are you on? What kind of plane of thinking?
It's fucking.
Let's see.
I'm just picturing, because he's brought up the Inspector Gadget thing, and I'm picturing like, go Gadget, your your water is now boiling.
Go Gadget, boil the king.
Go Gadget, Minos is boiled.
Go Gadget, convert
Oh.
Minos to miso.
I forgot to note a really cool detail about Minos, actually. To
Mm.
like even continue his tragic life, he now is became the judge of dead in the underworld.
Yes,
He's a little
Inferno.
Hades.
Yeah, he works directly under Hades.
Oh, is that like I thought
That's
that was
not
like a weird
bad.
Dante's Inferno thing.
It might be.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I was gonna say
I saw
in-
that as well. The Minotaur actually was one of the guardians of Dis in Dante's Inferno when I was looking up stuff for this.
Oh.
really. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah,
I was just
we're-
gonna say the game Hades
Yeah, we're
slaps.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, it's so
kick
good.
that.
And
I love
in that game you can get Daedalus hammers, which improve your equipment, and that's like one of the main things to pursue. And that's how I remember his name so efficiently. Honestly, the way that they pronounce stuff in that game has helped me with a few like kinks and nicks, like Charon. I think as
Oh,
a
yeah.
kid I was like, this Charon. No.
I think I said something like Chiron or something like that because I'm an idiot.
No, Chiron is the guy who taught Achilles. Chiron is
Oh!
a centaur who was on a mountain.
Yes,
Who
that's what
yeah,
I'm
taught
thinking
like
of. That's what-
they mixed Chiron and two other creatures, including Pan, the nasty fucking satyr god,
yeah,
to create Danny DeVito in
Ooh.
that one movie,
Yeah.
Hercules.
yeah. Hercules.
So he was partly Chiron.
Okay.
Hmm.
Okay, so It was King Minos that Daedalus did take out,
It'll do.
and somehow Minos' own daughters like tied him up and trapped him in a bath. Then Daedalus did that to him.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, so Minos had some family issues.
Sorry, just
Thank
going
you,
for a
Logan.
bull motif there. I apologize profoundly.
You're good.
That shouldn't have been in your podcast. It
I'm
just looked
just-
like a big booger.
I need
I love the fucking. I'm sorry to put focus on it. It's anyways, fucking yeah, no, I like. There's something really fun with looking back at the Greek myth because in the end, it's like looking at that and then seeing what the Minotaur turns into. Like the idea of a Minotaur in D&D, for example, where it's like where everything comes from. It's also really funny because I had like such a weird, different idea of the Minotaur, and I think I blame gargoyles for it. Like the show Gargoyles.
Okay, that's
Run me
fair.
through that. What's their presence in that?
There is like one Minotaur, and he's just a cool guy. I think his name's just like Taurus or something.
Oh no.
But
Gargoyles was so good with their mythos. They had a lot of cool stuff in it.
I think that was either just before my time or I was in a hyper religious household that was like, it
I mean,
oh yeah, it was Taurus.
was like 80s, right?
no, it was 90s.
Yeah.
90s,
Oh
okay.
yeah. No.
It was kind of like it was just ending around the time I was a kid. So yeah, for you, it probably would have been right for your time unless you watched it on Jetix.
Oh yeah.
Fuck yeah! I
I
got
remember that.
the tail end of that. But we're
I
probably
watched
halfway,
Jetix rocked.
I
halfway
watched
through the
Gargoyles
podcast.
before JetX, but yeah. To continue on, continue the forward motion, in a funny way. I had for some reason this idea of like a
We're not going
Minotaur
forward, we're
being
trapped
like
in a labyrinth.
I don't know. I was kind of like stuck thinking about them as like almost like a weird like almost like gentle giant kind of idea of like there's like a weird connection with that and a funny thing that actually does have not necessarily gentle giant but kind of has more the idea that I had of it was Dragonlance. Dragonlance has this idea of Minotaur where it is like for everybody else they're viewed as like very brutish and like evil or something like that, and there's like a whole like side series where basically one guy ends up accidentally teaming up with a Minotaur where it's like a I think his name is Hema, but it's like this whole thing of he ends up like rescuing something at a goblin camp. He sees something's like tied up or somebody's tied up and he's just like, okay, I can't really see this guy, but I see his chains. I'm gonna break his chains real quick and I'm gonna throw like a sword towards him and I'm gonna be like, help me out and we'll fight off these goblins. And basically there's a point where he's kind of like hears the chains like coming off and this big fucking hulking body steps up and he's like, what the fuck did I just free? And like the goblins are just like, it's the fucking bull! He's free! And like, this big fucking Minotaur starts ripping these things apart. But the whole idea of the thing is just like, oh, he gets like a cool Minotaur friend that's like, it's this weird thing where he thinks, fuck, I'm so fucked because I'm just one dude and I'm fighting a Minotaur. And immediately like he kind of like kneels and he's like, I owe you my life. I must honor this. And like, and it's this thing where he starts to realize, oh shit, Minotaur and like my Knight Order, we're really similar. We have similar ideals, and I always thought of you as like evil as fuck, and I'm only just realizing that we're actually like we have like a similar thing going on, and it's like this really cool thing of just like, oh yeah, to everybody they look like brutes. It's like this thing of like they like fighting, they have like these fucking arena circuses to like settle shit, but it's like this whole thing of just like, oh, they have like this strong idea of honor and like just like it's like this whole fucking thing of they have their own rules, and it's something cool, and it's a thing that I like from that series, and I like incorporating that into games, and that's how I use Minotaur.
Yeah, that kind of reminds me of how they used Juggernaut in the second Deadpool movie, where he's just this enigma that's like the scariest guy in the whole area. And then one kid who's got slight charisma is able to get him on his team, and they're just like, "Oh, they're unstoppable just because that guy is there now."
Yeah.
And that is kind of what the Minotaur I think could and should be is just this like with Chopper's devil fruit, just this
Oh,
massive unstoppable force of nature that once it kind of gets its own momentum or once it has
Mhm.
its place in a labyrinth, it's like, oh my god, that's a problem that doesn't have a solution. It's just we wait it out until it wins.
I
Yeah.
love that One Piece has such
Like,
good fucking ideas. It's like we
yeah,
just
oh
keep
my
finding
god.
ourselves going back to it. It's
Yeah.
fucking. It's not a complaint. It's just like I do that all the fucking time. I'm like, this is just like One Piece.
I know.
There's
I,
a theory I have about celestial mental gravity where you picture yourself as something going through space. What are you orbiting? What orbits you? And that just sticks with you. So like fucking One Piece, that is just constantly. That's my moon. Is One Piece and Adventure Time. It's like I can't get rid of them. They're there. They protect my brain. They give me
They're in my mind.
ideas.
I that is 100% fair. But on to what you were saying, I do appreciate that. I like that it really was just a single thing in Greek. Like there was one Minotaur, there was like no
One
other
guy.
Minotaur
Yeah,
after it,
that's it.
but it's evolved into so much more just off that inspiration that I thought was a really cool thing from it. That it's one thing I
A
really
lot
like
like
about the Minotaurs as well. Is so much came from it. Like not a lot of people even realized that Daedalus and Icarus's myth was so intrinsic
Oh yeah.
to
Yes.
yeah.
uh,
It's like
to
three acts of the same story.
yeah.
I was just going to say it has sort of a similar representation to the Frankenstein's monster,
Mm.
where it's this guy and his folly, and then it creates this awesome independent
Yeah.
creature that has so much density in its lore. It's fucking
Yes.
cool.
Oh yeah.
And I do in a weird way. Um, Thinking back on like the incorporation of Minotaur in D&D, it makes me think of like the Baphomet connection kind of shit, where it's
That's
like,
right. Yeah, I
I mean,
forgot that
I
was
brought
there.
this up before on the podcast, but it's like this is why I love the use of Baphomet in this, because it also kind of goes into the ideals that I like with Minotaur, where it is basically I like I guess it's like almost like a werewolf kind of thing, but it's like this thing of like the conflict of like fighting your nature.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, 'cause I really
Yeah.
like your
Okay.
idea of just like Minotaurs like that either embrace like a Baphomet or ones that kind of reject it.
yes. Uh-huh, where
Yeah,
it's like I've done stuff in my campaign where like some of the party have met Minotaur that have fully embraced it, and like they like I have like a thing in my game where it's like Minotaur, like they're really good at navigating labyrinths or like just mazes and things like that, but
To
the
to just build into the idea you're presenting, I want to hear how you actually represent them from the ground up in your setting. Maybe
in
we
my
could go
setting,
around it. Yeah, just learn
uh,
like how you
I
do Minotaurs, how Chuck does Minotaurs, and then how I
oh
would,
yeah
because I don't
yeah
think I have.
a
So
general
yeah,
ideas.
spin it back to the beginning because I don't have any context for you guys.
For my thing, my idea is like Minotaur spawned out of basically demonic incursion. Baphomet kind of basically popped into the material plane for a bit. The closest people got warped in certain ways, and this is where like goblinoids and ogres and things came from. But it's also and, like the idea of just like bestial kind of features popped up on people, and it's
Okay.
like this thing of the people at the core root were basically like Minotaur, like they were the purest, like what Baphomet wanted, and it was like this thing
So
of
goblins are like a failing of that, or
yes, goblins are like they
that's
have
it.
like
Okay.
very weak kind of, but it's like there's still those like bestial kind of features to them. Like it's like the idea of like, oh yeah, you have fucking like bugbears or something like that, and it's like they're like strong and stuff, but they're fucking lazy and they don't want to do shit. Whereas like you have like big brutish fucking minotaur, they're like the elites or whatever that like they like it's like the idea of like oh they have like the right kind of look to them and they have like the preferred kind of features
Is
of
the
them.
yeah.
Yeah, and it's like the idea of like, oh, they have probably this idea of like almost like a not like a photographic memory, but like they're really good at being able to figure out where they are, kind of thing.
Like a sense of direction is just
Yes,
innate, almost
like it's
cosmic.
like a
I
thing
like
of
that.
like the idea of because I don't like the new idea that they have for like the racial minotaur where it's they're just a compass. I like the old idea
Ugh.
of like they can just memorize places that they've been in, so it's like they can pick up on like
Yeah, wasn't that one of the feats that you could get in 5e where it's like you remember everywhere you've been in the past like mile distance or something. Like that
yes, I
that's what they
think
should
so.
have.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah, it's Keen Mind, I believe it's you remember everything in the last month. You get like a bonus to 1 to your intelligence, and you
always know what
which
time it
direction's
is.
north.
Or,
Yeah.
the north. Yeah,
And like, so the
like they
idea
should
would
just
be
have that.
the idea would be
Yeah,
like
makes sense.
Minotaur are basically just these people that settled in like old ruins of like because in my setting there's a whole thing of like, oh, elves used to populate a huge portion of the current continent, and then after like the incursion happened, elves just receded back and other things popped up. So it's like, oh, there was a period where goblinoids were like really strong, and then humans fought back,
yeah.
and then now they're like kind of like pushed back. And in the corner you just have Minotaur like slowly like growing into power, where they've taken over like certain sections. And something that I had also connected with the fighting the bestial nature kind of thing was just, oh, Minotaur are really good at navigating, but they're afraid of mazes. And
Huh.
or they have a not necessarily afraid of them, but it's more like they have a superstition, and they're like, if a Minotaur, like they have an idea of, if we stay too long inside of a maze, we might go insane. And it's more so this idea of just they're afraid of giving in. And it's like this thought of in the Underdark area where my players are at, like people know of Minotaur, and there's like a funny thing of like, oh, the goblinoids that have been up top, they've allied with some Minotaur, and they're like traveling down here. And it's a thing of like, some people are like, oh, we've heard of like pygmy Minotaur that we've seen, and the players are like, what do you mean pygmy Minotaur? And it's just like, because they're like still like 6 foot dudes, but what the people have in mind is like, oh yeah, Minotaur are like fucking like 15 feet tall. They're like massive fucking
Okay.
things. And like it's, I'm like I
Like
think I
Hulk.
threw, yeah, they're like Rajangs fucking like just running around down there. And it's like a whole thing of just like, oh, since they're deeper down underground, there's a thing in my setting of like, oh, the Underdark is very abyss connected. And that's a thing where it's like, as they're down there, it starts to become this thing of like, they start to feel that pull from Baphomet, and they start to give in, where it's just like, oh, I want to go fucking nuts.
Kind of like how they paint orcs, I think.
Yeah.
And yeah, and besides that, they also like worship Baphomet, but they view the ideals of Baphomet. Like even the people, the Minotaur up top worship him, but they kind of view him as like there's certain ideas that they will associate with him, which could be right or wrong, but it's like, because of them, there's a certain idea of like, oh, Baphomet wants me to like it's like almost like that alpha mentality of like, oh, I want to be the best and strongest, but they also have like this honor system of just like, you don't look like a bitch, don't like do backhanded shit, because that like Baphomet doesn't like that shit.
I'm sorry. My mind went to like the word alpha's been ruined for me, so I'm just thinking.
Yeah, no, it's like very
I
it's it's goofy sounding, but it's like a fucking thing of it's very much like, yeah,
I don't have
they
I don't have
they view like,
sunglasses handy for the bit. Just thinking, like, are you trapped in a maze? Are you trapped in a mental labyrinth that you just cannot get out of? That you're getting repressed down and by your Baphomet's ways? You need to break the labyrinth and emerge victorious.
this is fucking
that.
being out. What color's your Bugatti? Like,
How big are your horns? How many carriages do you own?
besides that, I also have been trying to slowly incorporate the fact that it's like, because like there's been times where when the player have met Minotaurs from up top, they will use kind of like stuff from the Rune Knight, and it just has to do with the fact that they have like mixed in, like due to old lore stuff, they have like mixed in things of like, oh, for whatever reason, Baphomet has shown them how to use like giant magic. And
That's cool.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, if you also go like some Norse inspiration there, giants was a very broad spectrum in Norse.
Yeah.
There was like the giant snakes, giant creatures,
You-
stuff like that. So
You have Surtur, the fire giant god, and then you have Anam, who was like the first guy uncovered in the world by Surtur, who was killed, and his body made the world. So anything on like a large scale, you could pull from any of that and just be like, yeah, Minotaurs are in that mix. That's
yeah,
cool.
Yeah.
So Minotaurs being giant related, honestly, is kind of tangentially possible with the inspiration.
I'll be back in 2 minutes. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, 2 whole minutes.
But
If he
yeah,
comes,
that's my.
if he comes back and he changes his shirt, I'm just gonna laugh.
That'd be really funny.
Oh no, but
Mhm.
regardless, another interesting thing that kind of makes it go loop while we have a breathing moment here is
Yeah.
I was looking at Theseus. Apparently, it's sometimes described as Theseus being the son of Poseidon, so that makes it loop even more since
Oh.
Poseidon giving the bull is what caused all this to happen in the first place.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Which it's such a the Greek gods are such bastards. They fucking it's like it's all these like dumb little like things that they've done that push like it's like a thing of just having it's like Poseidon causing all this bullshit and then just being like and now you go kill him.
I know, like Minos obviously was a terrible dude. Like, just his own daughters ended up killing him. But like, I gotta
Yeah,
look
yeah.
at it like from his perspective. Whoa, this is the prettiest bull on earth. I gotta do what? I just got it.
I think that's a thing that does get me with some old mythos stuff of just like rather than dealing with the person directly that causes issue, it is like affecting all the lives around that. And like the idea of like it's like the thought of all right, dipshit, because you did this, I'm gonna make your wife fuck a bull, and she's gonna. And it's like this other stuff of just like, and then like your like fucking little like half son, your little Minotaur son. Now he has to fucking live in the maze, kind of shit. Like it's all this awful shit of just like I don't know. It is a funny thing of just lives that didn't necessarily have to fucking be fucked with.
Yeah, and Daedalus was just sitting in there playing with his model trains. The next thing you know, royal members keep coming in here. It's like, Daedalus, build this. I'm really into that bull now. And it's like, oh, I don't wanna.
it's like it's like Daedalus, you have to build the suit. And it's like
I don't, I
I
don't
guess
wanna.
I have to. Fuck. And like he does it, and then it's like Daedalus, why did you do this? Build a vase for that thing.
I don't wanna.
But
I got this a lot of
yeah.
work.
Now that Logan's back, yeah,
Right, I mean,
that was my whole spiel on like my Minotaur. You guys can like what do you guys do anything with Minotaur? Have you done anything with Minotaur
Yeah,
in the past?
it's my turn then, I guess, since Logan wanted mine as
Yeah.
well. So I haven't got to do as much with Minotaurs in mine because the setting I pretty much put them in my world we haven't explored in a while. But what I had in plan for them is I didn't get to explore them as much as I wanted to, but I really kind of delved into. I really liked that whole idea of them being really good at navigating. So
Yeah.
they were pretty much like known to be legendary cartographers in our world. They were very recluse,
like that.
private race. No one even really knew where their homeland was, and it was because it was in the High Seas campaign I made, and one island in particular was just one big like a collection of jutted rocks and spikes that everyone thought was impassable, but the Minotaurs had found a way to navigate it, and basically they hollowed out the mountain and had their own little labyrinth they lived inside of it. So that was the idea I had, is anyone who could even make it in there just couldn't figure out how to navigate the island and just ended up leaving or ended up perishing there. But the Minotaurs just pretty much had their own isolated society, and they'd go out, they'd make maps, explore new land, and do stuff like that. But other than that, they didn't really interact with the known world too much.
Interesting.
Yeah.
They're
So
such big boys.
yeah,
pretty
I
cool.
wish I got to use them more because I really liked building them up like that. That they're so mysterious. There was a
Mm.
set of Minotaurs that the party ran into often, and they'd always buy their maps from them. And
Yep, that's awesome.
yeah,
Honestly plays into the Dragonlance idea of Minotaur because they're very that's their whole spiel is just they're really good at navigating ships because they memorize the stars in the sky kind of thing.
yeah.
Minographic memory.
Uh, uh,
Oh yeah,
Ah,
yeah.
I mean, it's no less silly than what we're doing. We're just making poor Daedalus just getting bullied by the entire royal family. Because something else I noticed to make it even more kind of cyclical and tragic is Theseus is often described as either the son of Aegon, the king of Athens, or sometimes the son of Poseidon. So that means basically everything began with Poseidon and ended with Poseidon, if that's the real origin of Theseus.
Wait, Theseus was supposed to be his son too? What the fuck? I didn't know that.
Yeah, like, that's the first I saw it, so I imagine that's a lesser known thing, but I kind of like that idea.
The fucking idea of just like Poseidon basically having this little sandbox section, and he just fucked with a bunch of shit, and he just sits there and watches. He's just like,
Yeah.
all right,
All right.
now I'm entertained.
There's no like deity of like cities or civilization really. Like they all come together to do it, which is interesting because
Yeah.
Poseidon, who is like the rock, being, you know, trade with the ocean and livestock, which is the lifeblood of any active community. Poseidon is kind of, he gets to do whatever the hell he wants.
He was
next
just
to
playing,
Zeus.
he was just playing Sims on this island. I'm gonna make them have a baby.
He's the guy that you pick to play as whenever you crack open like Civ 5 or whatever. You're just Poseidon every time.
Yeah, just leaves the game open for a while, comes back, and it's like, oh, why is there a labyrinth now?
Yeah. It was like, him, Zeus, and Hades, right? Those are the three brothers that brought down the Titans. Yeah. So it makes sense that he's just kind of the underdog who gets to do everything all the fucking time.
Yeah,
Hades is still like the one god that barely did anything. Like, not in the sense of like he doesn't do anything, but more in the sense of Hades has a very low list of bad things that he did.
Yeah.
Like even
that's because he kind of got locked in the underworld, so he had very little access to get around to do stuff.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's like a thing of like, at worst, potentially what he did was like kidnap Persephone, but even then there's like some mythos of like, oh no, that was actually Zeus that did that. Yeah. And he just brought her up to Hades, and he was like, hey, I know you liked her, so I brought her for you.
Like, bro, why'd you do that? Oh, you're embarrassing me.
What? Dude, you're scaring the chicks.
Chick like in the fetal position in his arm, like, bro, it's just a chick.
Dude, it's just a chick. I do this shit all the time, Hades. Stop being fucking swear, dude. Stop.
Demeter will only be mad for like 300 years, and that's it, okay?
Oh, Hades, you're always fucking doing this, dude. You never want to go out and like party with us.
Work.
But Poseidon just comes in, just like sunglasses on, just total like beach bro. So you will not believe what I just made a Queen of Minos do.
Watch what happens next will shock you. They're all just fucking YouTube kings. Zeus would do like the Jake Paul Forrest video.
Yup.
If he's doing that, Poseidon is literally just the guy standing outside of bars in Miami, just interviewing drunk chicks.
Oh my fucking God.
Just a prank, bro.
And just hitting on them
Would
massively.
You fuck a bull? Would you fuck this bull?
Hades would be like the harassing like questionnaire guy where he's like, and what do you think that? Make me laugh. Make me laugh for $200. It's like, women are funny. Like, that's what Hades would do. Just all of them would be awkward and uncomfortable.
I'm just imagining like Hades, just because of his lack of interactions, locked in his room, so he's just harassing everyone online. Like, I was about to say, like,
Hades
Artemis
would literally have so much Reddit karma.
Artemis checks her Instagram and sees every single photo she's ever posted has been liked all at once.
Picturing the Poseidon thing where he's just walking up to women and he's like, would you fuck a bull? Would you fuck this bull?
Would you fuck this bull? Would you take this bull? How do you feel?
Hey,
would you make a guy craft a bull suit for you?
Yeah.
Could I see pictures of you in this bull suit?
Would you do it for an entire labyrinth?
Explain why not.
Wait,
tell me why not. Why wouldn't you?
Okay. Here we go. We got, what about Hermes as the Mr. Beast one? We just locked 20 Athenian children into the labyrinth.
We said
he would do that.
in Athens, into the labyrinth. This is what
We found the original labyrinth. 7 children died, but we won't tell you that because lawsuits are scarier than the wrath of Zeus.
Will Orpheus survive in the underworld to bring back his wife?
I want to see a Mr. Beast video where he's just like, what's his name? Starts with an O. The musician that goes down there.
Orpheus?
Oh,
Orpheus, yeah.
Yes.
We sent Orpheus down to hell to save his dead wife. What happens at the end of the video will shock you. Parentheses, he doesn't turn around. It's the same thing that happened with Sodom and Gomorrah. Yeah, don't turn around challenge. Sodom and hell.
Oh fuck.
Hey Mario, think like your camera's locked up. You here with us?
Hold on.
Bacon. Wait, oh, he's gone.
Oh, we have no Mario. He's in the abyss now.
Oh no.
I will kill myself if Mario vanishes.
We just gave Mario a heavy boulder and put him on a hill.
We just gave Mario an entire labyrinth to die in. We sent out the Bull of Minos.
24-hour challenge. Put the hill or put the boulder on the hill. Parentheses repeating. Parentheses video next week. Question mark. That's fucking terrible. God damn it. You Greeks are fucking psychopaths. You're worse than us.
You're people, you're all a bunch of fucking animals.
I mean, we're American. We make more media than any country ever has in a day. But God, you people are crazy and silly and wacky. You and your bull people. Did you see that we made a fucking gopher medal and that's going to be a new Pixar movie? That's nothing like Minos.
I know you Greek mythos people do a little things
Hey, you
differently.
said mythos a little differently.
Things
So
not
the Greeks had a problem. I'm sorry.
I'm here to solve it.
Cracked knuckles.
You know what's...
Have we been on the rails at all this entire podcast?
You know, compared to the vampire episode, we were pretty good.
We're still technically talking about the Minotaur.
We just made incel jokes about Strahd for an hour. I mean, this is...
Logan, have you done anything with Minotaur in a game?
No.
Let's go.
Let's start. Let's start right now, Logan.
Okay, I have it. Yeah, I can do some nice little open window theory here. So I have never played with the idea of Minotaurs because I have found other monsters to be a little more diverse than them. Because from the grassroots, they're kind of one beat. You know, it's a monster that is in a labyrinth, and when you go in there, either the labyrinth kills you or they do. So they're just this. They could take any shape. Their narrative purpose doesn't change. But with Mario and Chuck's like building off of them, there is a lot of potential that I haven't tapped. Where you could have any sort of creature that is initially like a nightmare become your guide, sort of like say you're on a mushroom trip and your friend is like nightmare, and then they shift and they're like, so let me guide you through this nightmare. And that's kind of the idea that at first you're terrified of this patron. Like you could sort of put them on a pseudo-cosmic scale and be like, okay, the Minotaur is scary. It is the fundamental definition of if I stay here too long, I die. And that's in so many horror movies. You know, you have Alien, which is just like a labyrinth with the Minotaur chasing you. It's kind of the same thing.
Yeah, honestly.
The movie The Maze, where it's like, oh, we have to get out of here before the big scary thing catches us. But to have that like shift on a dime where you can empathize to some level with this creature and align your goals with it, I think it's a very good sort of 2-beat monster to play with, and it doesn't have to take the shape of a bull. That's my issue with it.
Yeah,
because big buff guy with a bull head, that's its own thing. That's super cool.
Yeah.
But the narrative aspect of a Minotaur being a creature that lurks in this place that you don't know the way out, but it does, and whether or not you get out is up to it. It's sort of a very compact theology issue. Like, do you believe And what do you believe? Do you believe this will kill you, or do you have faith that it can help you, and do you empathize with it? And
Yeah.
that's a lot of fun. I'm actually currently doing a Minotaur story with a Fae, where there's a dryad
Ooh.
in the Feywild with my party, and she's like, "Oh, I love you guys. Stay here forever. I'll show you everything. I'll show you my gardens. I'll show you my
Oh
potions.
yes,
I'll show
you
you
told
my
me about
books."
this. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and like the further the party goes into this labyrinth, because it's one way in, one way out. The further you go, further, the deeper you go in, the longer it's going to take to get out, and the scarier your recourse or your egress is going to be.
Yeah.
So the idea of following, say you meet the Minotaur at the beginning, you don't know because it's in a guise, that it can guide you through this place it knows well and you don't. That dime shift of, oh, we're safe, we have a friend who's our guide, to, oh, they're not a guide at all. They are a machinist. They have designed this hell for us, and now we have to escape at their whim. And everything we learned was from them. So that's sort of an angle you could play with Minotaurs, which is fun. Sort of in a Spirited Away, that baby who's like, "Play with me, or I'll break your arm."
Oh yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
a fucking horrifying scene. You're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I didn't know I was a victim until right now," and to just kind of do this alarms blaring running, and that is what adds so much urgency and agency to getting the fuck out of this labyrinth. That's what makes a Minotaur scary, because that's immediately you're in those dreams, which I have weirdly frequently. I don't know what it means, of like, I have to get away from this thing, and every turn you make, there it is.
I think
Like,
I'm
you
being
can't
haunted by Mr.
escape it.
Beast.
The moment you feel you're safe, Mr. Beast is there, breathing down your neck with his jaw gaping wide. And I think Minotaurs do a good job of that, where they're this sort of enigmatic, like transcendent thing. If it's just a bull guy in a maze, that's fun.
Yeah.
That's fine. I love that, but I like pumping stuff up to 11, where it's
Yeah.
like we don't
Yeah.
understand everything about this encounter. We just know the rules.
No, I'll be.
Because in all honesty, using
That's how I would play it, and I think
Yeah.
I might.
in all honesty, using just like the idea of like it's a bull guy in a maze, it's kind of boring.
Yeah.
At least
Yeah.
to me,
But
is
I
like
love boring ideas because there's no pretense. It's like, oh, I can just take this and like, where's my fucking wax ball? I can squish it. I can shape it. Like I can change it into whatever I want.
yeah.
And
That's good.
Honesty check.
obviously, y'all saw me nerding out earlier. Like, the idea of the Minotaur itself, yeah, it's a very basic, bare bones, like, monster story. But everything that led up to it and followed it was
Yeah.
so interesting and shaped a lot of narratives to this day. Like, just all in one story, just like the Minotaur, the Labyrinth, Daedalus, Icarus, all
Yeah,
that.
the fact that both of them were tied into the same narrative. Like
Yeah.
there's so much to pluck from.
Yeah, like I said, it's a 3-act story that had massive repercussions in multiple ways, and then tied into a classic hero story with Theseus later on,
I think
who later went on to found Athens for lore-wise, or like at least had a lot of influence in Athens. So just there's a lot of influence that really shaped the Greek world just from this small little island country, which was interesting.
the funny thing that I tend to really latch on, and I was like bringing up before, but it's like the thing that I always latch on to with the idea of a Minotaur is, I guess the reason I have like a draw to them is not always like a thing of, oh, I want to throw this at the party, because they're like neat and cool to throw, but it's a thing of, the main reason I really liked them was because I like playing as one. And it's usually just the idea of there is that fun aspect of like that idea of like fighting your nature kind of thing. But at the same time, I like the idea of like when I play a Minotaur, something that I sometimes want when I'm playing like monstrous characters is I want people to have that feeling of just, I want to interact with NPCs and have that moment where I'm visibly different, and I want them to have a reaction to that. Like I want them to, it's kind of I think it's funny because I ended up finding like a book that basically does this, but it was very fun in the sense of, I remember like the vibe that something I was really always not satisfied with when I would play Minotaur, and a lot of people's games was it was a thing of constantly it would just be NPCs being like, "Oh, I know that you look scary, but like I'm okay with you," kind of thing. And it's like
Being a fucking
that's not the
minority.
narrative. Yeah, it's like that's not the narrative that I wanted for this character. And it's like a
Yeah.
thing of I've been let down by some DMs because I'm like, this is what I want to happen, and it's like, yeah, I could do that, and it turns into like, oh, but they're okay with you, and it's like, okay, but it's
They're a
like a
little
thing
gun
of
shy.
yeah, it's like it's this thing of I like because I eventually got to play that idea, which was fun in like another player's game, and that's one of my favorite characters. Was a Minotaur gladiator, where the idea was like he came from a place where he was they would literally have bullfights, and he came from this horrific thing of like he was forced to fight other Minotaur, and he
Oh.
had to kill them in order to keep living. So it was like a thing of
God.
it's like and it was like a fun thing of just like, oh yeah, he's a monk barbarian thing, and it was just this idea of like he was a sun soul monk, so it's just like, oh, he could do like key blasts and shit, and like fucking that's what gave him the edge. But at the same time he was like 5'9", while these Minotaur are like massive as fuck, so it's like this thing of just like he had like an edge. He was able to survive for a long time, but he bears a lot of guilt because of it, because he's like, I had to kill so many people to be
Yeah,
here.
survivor's
But it's
guilt, if
like,
you will.
this thing of I think a book that does it really well is there is a Dragonlance book called The Legend of Kaz, and it was literally the first Dragonlance book that I read,
Yeah.
and which was really funny because it turns out that it's a spin-off book, and even then it's a sequel to a book that I didn't read, and it's basically it follows the narrative of Kaz is a Minotaur. He's the Minotaur that befriended this knight, and he ends up like at the end of the first novel, the knight dies, and Kaz is like, shit, I had a life debt to protect you and I failed. And he's like, what the fuck do I do? So he's kind of like in this state of like, it's almost like a Freeran thing, where it's like he constantly thinks back to his past friend, and it's just like this thing of like, what would you do in this situation? And it's like this thing of he has to fight with the fact that everyone's super racist. Everyone hates him because he's a Minotaur. And it's this thing of it is like this situation of he is going out of his way to save people, and people fucking hate him for even interacting with them. And it's like this thing of like he's fighting this rage of just like, listen, they're ignorant, they don't know better. I understand why people like there's a whole army of Minotaur, and they just think of the other people, not me, and they don't know who I am, so I'm just gonna let them go. And that makes him like such a fucking hero and so fucking
Yeah.
cool, because he does the right thing, even though it's like this thing of like, even though everyone hates him, he does the right thing. And that book was also awesome because it fucking shows like he has such cool fight scenes of like, oh yeah, by the way, he's a fucking Minotaur, so he's gonna like legit when he slashes into somebody, it's not like, oh, they clash blades. It's like I fucking like swing my axe and I cleave this guy in half with the first swing.
Yeah.
It's fucking
That's cool.
it's brutal as fuck, and it's awesome. But yeah,
You're not the first person to tell me about that. I need to actually check that book out.
oh yeah, Kaz the Minotaur is awesome.
Yeah. So we at that point. What is our ranking of the Minotaur, or Minotaurs in general?
I would say this is out of our system of 5, right?
Mhm.
I'm gonna put him at a solid 3.
3? Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Minotaurs.
Defend yourself.
Defend
Oh,
myself?
defend myself on something.
Yeah.
I would say, looking at them from the general perspective of like thinking about it in the sense of somebody wanting to put them in the game, one of the really neat things about Minotaur that's kind of funny is they're a challenge rating 3 monster, so they're kind
Yeah.
of really good to have
They're-
like as a challenge for anything, because they like for later levels it's like a thing of like they make good grunts. They're really cool, and they're pretty tough, but at the same time I find like the stuff that we expanded on, there's a lot of fun narrative stuff to go into, but at the same time, you have the general idea of what people have in mind for a Minotaur, and it's like you said with the alien thing, it's you don't necessarily need the Minotaur to have that vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in the end, it's like they're they're easy to put in. People will know what it is, but at the end of the day, they're just like a bull man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you rate them higher or lower than a centaur?
Higher,
Mm,
higher. They're easier
Higher.
to use than a centaur.
Okay.
I
yeah.
would.
We'll leave that at face value for now.
Yeah, we might do a Centaur episode eventually, but
That'd be a cool one. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
All right, Chuck.
So I was actually going to say like I'm thinking like 3.5, but it really is yeah, they're very basic, but everything they inspired, that's what I'm really going off of like
Mhm.
the like
In light of that centaur comment, I might boost mine also to a 3.5, where it's like I would put a centaur at a 3, I would put a minotaur above them for sure. So it's like they share that 3
Okay.
spot, but minotaur
Yeah.
is still a bit upper.
Well, you're spoiling the Centaur episode, Mario. Come on now.
Yeah, I know.
Oh.
Keep that in mind, Vox.
All right,
I'll change
so
my answer.
I'm going to keep my Centaur thing reserved. Because also that recurring joke that I'm a centaur, I don't know where it comes from.
That's true,
but
yeah.
So give you
I gotta hide my bias, even though pretty good.
You know, I never saw your legs while we were hanging out at Gin.
Yeah, I never really looked down.
I never really looked down the whole time.
Just out of
but
respect, but now I'm suspicious.
It was kind of
Got it.
crazy when you went to go get those pizzas. You did it so fast.
Yeah. You didn't take the car. I was like, Chuck, and you were already way
It was
down the
kinda
road.
crazy.
I told y'all I Uber Eated it.
Oh yeah. All right. I'll
Yeah,
believe
They
that.
brought it to me. It's
I
okay.
Uber Eated it.
I just went to go meet him outside. That was all.
Okay.
Fuck.
All right. I tipped an adequate amount too, just so you know.
That you did.
Yeah, I tipped
He's-
good. You shut up, Mario. You shut up.
No, I saw you.
I said I did. My bad.
Is that on to me or?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, I say 3.5, but like I said, honestly, just like for the story alone and everything it inspired, well, we're not basing that. We're basing the monster itself. But for everything it did,
Yeah.
I'd give it like a 4. But like for the monster itself, a 3.5. But I love the story of Minos and
Yeah.
everything that happened there. It was a
The
really
narrative of Minos and tying that into Daedalus and the guy with the feathers. What the fuck? I'm forgetting his
Icarus.
name again.
Oh,
Icarus.
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 Icarus
Yeah.
pit.
Sorry, Kid Icarus in
Pit.
Smash Bros. And
His big
his
sweaty
enemy, Dark Sonic Icarus. It's such an interesting, like it's such a major trend-setting thing that it had such a huge effect on culture moving forward that all this shit came from a very citable source, which is super interesting. I love that it's just like, yeah, this king had a bull boy and he made a big prison for him and he put people in the prison and they didn't come back out. That's fucking nonsense. I love that. Like I
Yeah.
go for a 4 on the original myth, but when it comes to so yeah, the myth itself and the Minotaur itself for me gets a 4. But when it comes to adapting it and putting it into any sort of game that you're building where there are so many other resources and so many stories that you as a creator want to tell with your party, you can't just retell that same story.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the story dies the moment it's done. Like there's not a lot of building. I want to give them like a mid to high 2, but I think they just get a 2. Like
That's
a
fair.
bull guy in a labyrinth. That's just 3 little points. There's no complexity. There's a lot that like I or anyone else could do as a creator to be like,
Yes.
okay, I'm gonna take this and run with it. But it's the same with goblins and a couple other monsters we had before, where it's like it's up to me to be fun with
Yes.
them. They're not inherently fun,
Yeah.
so I'm gonna
It's like
consistently be the cynic on this podcast and say probably a
no, that's
low 2.
because for me, I love Minotaur, and
No, they're great too. I fucking love them. They're
Yeah,
awesome.
no, Mario,
But
I'm giving it a 3. I'm
But
like, whoa.
I'm being fair, giving it a 3. It's like thinking about it from the perspective of if I were to recommend like this of like
how
like,
open is it? sort of?
how likely would it be that I would tell somebody, "Oh, dude, put a Minotaur in your game"? Like I don't see myself doing that. It's more so
Yeah.
like, "Oh, here's what I did with Minotaur in my game. Like here's
Mhm.
this different thing that I spun with it."
Mhm.
And it's more that where it's like versus I would definitely recommend goblins to somebody where it's
Yeah.
like, dude,
Or like
if you don't
hags.
have
Hags is another
yes,
one for me. It's like,
yeah,
yeah, they can do anything. Minotaurs can do one of 5 things, and they can do them
yes.
as well as the DM does them well. It's not up to the
Mhm.
Minotaur.
In the
That's,
end,
that's
Minotaur kind of it's like the same reason why there aren't orcs in Dragonlance is Minotaur fill that role, and in the end, it's like they're just
yeah.
brutes.
Yeah. Uh, I will say
I would
Baphomet's a
prefer
little.
Minotaur. I'm sorry. I
I
would
do
prefer
prefer Minotaur
Minotaurs
over
to
orcs.
straight up replace orcs. I think that would be
Yeah, yeah.
sick.
Yeah.
But you were
That's basically what they do.
Yeah, Baphomet's a little bit of a different story. I love Baphomet. I think
I
he's
love
yeah.
it.
But
That is the big reason why. Because it's like if I look at solely Minotaur without the Baphomet connection kind of thing, because you can have Minotaur. Like it's like the current thing that they're trying to do is like, oh,
Uh,
Minotaur are a Lady of Pain kind of thing, or like they're connected
Lady-
to the
to refresh me and the viewers on that, Baphomet is the demon prince of undeath, right? Or no,
no,
Baphomet is
Baphomet
the
is
demon
the
prince
Prince of
of
Beasts.
beasts. Yeah, thank you.
Mhm.
yeah,
So he's
no,
like,
you're
there's that
thinking of
afterlife.
shoot, what is his name? I have his
Orcus.
magic
Orcus.
card. I
I
should
was
remember
thinking of
him.
Orcus.
Orcus, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Baphomet is like the prince of the hunt. So he's like the Artemis, but evil, sort of.
Yes,
So
yeah,
that's kind of a fun angle to play too.
you
Is
know,
like the antithesis of Artemis, or maybe
well,
children of her, whatever.
kind of
But
in a funny way to get like a bit into Baphomet. The best way that I would describe Baphomet at a face value thing is Baphomet is Beast from X-Men except evil.
yeah, okay,
Baphomet is a scientist. He has a lab in
like
his
Chopper, but evil.
yes, actually, yes.
He's like Demon Chopper. What the
Yeah,
fuck?
he's like Demon
Chopper's major
Chopper.
form is just Baphomet. What?
Yeah, he's
Oh
just
my god!
basically yeah, yes, no, you're right.
I ate the
You're-
Bafo fruit. I'm the
yeah, yeah,
devil of beasts.
Are
Like,
you
oh!
and I became the demon lord of
People have suspected that he ate the Zoan version of like the forest fruit, where he's like the god of the woods, and it's
Oh,
like,
that's
yeah,
crazy.
man.
Baphomet.
Yeah.
Baphomet is such an interesting demon lord to me in the sense of like what he represents, because like one of the coolest, tiniest nothing quotes with him.
One of the coolest.
One of the epicest things is just like a thing of like Baphomet is a man that dared to treat the gods like cattle, and because of that, he was forced
Fucking
into the
poetic.
shape of a bull. And it's
That's
this idea of
beautiful.
like, what the fuck does that mean?
I feel like we need to do
I
a whole
love that.
episode just on Baphomet because
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
I was
honestly,
gonna
that'd be
say we
really
should do
cool.
one just on the demon lords and like each of us
Oh,
harp because I love Zuggetmoy.
Yeah, Zuckmoy's
I was-
cool.
Fucking
Some
big
of them
blob
suck,
of
but they're
gunk.
I was
The-
thinking of
yeah.
doing that, then I realized it would be such a repetitive like.
That's a lot.
We'll do like if you want, we can do a special of like all the demon princes.
Yeah,
and shit.
honestly,
Yeah.
like, just
No, I meant we probably
doing
jump
a-
between 1 to 1 so often. It's like we might just need to do one
Yeah.
each.
Talk about vampires being cucked for like
It's
2
like-
hours straight.
I know on our list we
It's
also
actually
have
going to be our
goals.
longest one. We've been at 1 hour and 2 minutes right now.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Fuck
no.
yeah.
We got our marking.
Okay.
I was just gonna say
Oh.
we have Knowles on the list, and I was just like, that'd be a great one to talk about Yanagu
It,
or Yanogu or however you want to
Inagu,
say it.
you
motherfucker.
really need to talk about Knowles with Inagu because Knowles are just.
Inagu?
Yeah,
I thought it. Am I wrong? Is it not Yinagu?
I say Yanagu, but I could be wrong. In fact, I think a very annoying thing before we close out, a very annoying thing with D&D in general is some of the fucking names just have multiple
Gary.
fucking versions of it, and it's
Yeah.
just like motherfucker.
Gary. Yeah.
I'll say it again. I'm never saying Artificer, Jacob. I'm saying
I-
Artificer.
Fuck that
I see-
shit. That's like
I see
saying
in-
Asmodeus. Eat my fucking
I say
Asmodeus
Asmodeus,
ass.
fuck you.
Eat my Asmodeus ass. It's Asmodeus.
I go
Deus
with
is
Yanagu.
Latin for God.
Take that,
I go with-
Jacob from XP to level 3. Everyone at Jacob and tell him we got roasted.
XP from
I go with
Jacob.
Yanogu or Yanagu. Yanogu.
you're right.
I go with
you're right.
Yin.
It is
Because
It
Inagu.
is
hyena.
Yinagu.
Yin,
I wanna
like as in
see-
hyena.
Wait, it
I'm
is
forgetting
Inagu?
Yinogu.
Inagu? Okay, Inagu.
Yanogu. Yanogu? Oh, fuck me.
Hello. Yinagu. Yeah.
Yes.
Yanagu? Yanagu.
That's
Yes.
Evans.
Yes!
I want to.
Yanagu.
Yes.
Yeah, Chuck was right. Chuck was right.
Ah,
Yinag.
I feel so
Yinagu
good
or
to be
Yinogu?
right.
Hey, let's go!
Wait,
It's
wait.
not Yinagu. What the?
Eh.
Wait, are they all right? I'm gonna send this through.
Probably.
Hang on.
Because it's
Fucking
like the
cannot
fucking
all be right,
Sahuagin
only
thing,
one
or
of
the
us can be right.
Sahuagin, or the whatever you want to fucking call it.
Yinagu, Yinagu, listen, or
Yinagu.
Yinagu, or
Or is
Yinogu. Shut the fuck up,
Nagu?
you piece of
You know,
shit. What are they called?
I go with
Gnomes?
Gnomes?
Good
Gnome?
They're actually
Gnoblin?
they're actually pronounced Jolfs.
It's actually pronounced.
I want us to end
Actually,
on one
if I'm
thing.
understanding right, it's, Go ahead.
I want us to end on one thing just because we're making fun of
Oh,
the fact that that's how a bull created. I don't know if it's before or after, but that is not the only time that happened to Greek mythology where there was literally half man, half beast.
Swan.
Oh, there's the bear one.
Yeah, I was actually pulled up the bear one. It was
Yeah.
the woman
Which-
Polyphonte, I believe her name was punished by Aphrodite for the former
Aphrodite?
Did not-
Aphrodite.
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 In my southern ways, Aphrodite for the former did not worship her, instead becoming a devotee of the virgin goddess Artemis. The goddess of love made her a couple with a bear, which resulted in her two savage children, Agrius and Aureus. In Rick
Now, when you
Riordan's
get
novel,
there-
A Sea of Monsters, Agrius and Aureus act as henchmen to the main antagonist, Luke Castilian. In the final battle, they are killed by Blackjack the Pegasus and a centaur, respectively. In the film adaptation, they were replaced
ChatGPT.
by a manticore.
A manticore.
Oh, are you talking about fucking Percy Jackson or whatever?
Yeah, that was the last little bit I was talking about.
Yeah. They fucking. I remember that. I remember that specifically. Where it was just like the fucking half man, half bear thing, and it was like, what the fuck is that? And I had to look it up.
Yeah, and it was one of the few times Luke actually was kind of spitting there, where he was like, "Look what the gods have done! Look at these two guys! They made their mom do it with a bear, and now we got these two guys." And Luke's just pointing at him and like, "Look at my monstrous freak henchman." And I'm just like, God dang, that is messed up, gods. What?
I mean, it is. It's
Hey
fucking
gods. Hey gods, what the fuck? What
Hey,
you doing?
gods.
I think
Cringe.
the biggest. Not to. Actually, we're going. I'm gonna keep going.
Yeah, we need to wrap. I just wanted to end it
I had a
there because we were like so shocked by that idea. It's like, hey,
You cut it. We're done.
no, we're not done yet. You ain't
Hey,
free
boy.
yet. You're done when I say we're done. Which
I was
is right
gonna
now.
say, if anyone has read fucking Deltora Quest, put it in the comments.
Okay, you heard the call to action. If you've made it
Call to
over
action.
1 hour and
Message me personally, and we'll talk about that book that I read when I was a child.
okay, we're
By the
cutting
way,
it
that
now.
little silhouette you see down here in the
Cutting you off,
reflection of
Logan.
this
Goodbye.
isn't me jacking off. This is me